due to the space-time that surrounds the larger mass. The reason why the smaller mass follows that path.
Right.
So it's the ability of the large mass to distort space-time, not the ability of the large mass to have an effect on a smaller mass, right? Directly.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. What's your position? Like, because when I've been in this channel, I've heard the idea of like density and buoyancy as an alternative to gravity. Could you like help me understand that?
It's not an alternative. Yeah, it's not an alternative. This is well accepted within physics, right? It's called relative density, or aka specific gravity. So when a solid or liquid exists within a medium, its direction, its directional bias will be dependent on the density of the surrounding medium in relation to the density of the object, right? So if the object is within a medium that it is more dense than, right, it'll have a propensity downwards. And if it's in a medium that is less dense than, it has a propensity upwards.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, that
this
makes
is
sense.
well understood. Well understood physics. It's not
Yeah.
It's not in contention. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying this is like a contentious idea or anything.
Right. So it's not an alternative. We're just saying stop right there. That's as far as you need to go. You don't need to go any further than that. There's no reason to invoke mass attracting mass or bendy space-time or any of that garbage. That's good enough, right?
Right. So how does the atmosphere come into play here? Like, would you say?
It's just gas. Gas just expands in all directions to fill available volume, and it'll be affected by temperature and volume.
And yeah, like, would you say that the atmosphere has different levels of density?
Yeah, there's probably areas where it's more and less dense, and of a higher and lower pressure, and of a higher and lower temperature.
Yeah, because like if you like, I haven't ever climbed like a big mountain or anything, but I've heard that like when people climb Mount Everest, they have to have like oxygen tanks and stuff because the air's like really thin, and there's less air because it's less dense. And then if you go like to the at sea level or like even below it, it becomes like more dense apparently. Like I'm not a scientist or anything, but this is just like what I've heard.
No, you don't need to be a scientist.
Right.
Yeah. There's less pressure as you go higher. Yep.
Yeah. So like, do we believe in space?
You mean the vacuum of outer space?
Sure. Yeah.
What is space, Happy? Do you know what it is?
I would say, I mean, I would agree with like, well, you know, space, like the conventional idea of space, like, you know, stuff in space, planets, and all that stuff. That's how I would say space is. Yeah, but I know you guys would disagree.
You didn't describe it. You're asking us to think about space in the way you think about it, but you just gave us a very ambiguous way of describing it.
I don't mean to be. I can be more specific. Sorry.
Satellites and stuff. You're not telling us what you think it is. Specifically, what is it?
I guess I would say that space is like a vacuum. And I would say space is like, I don't know. I'd say the universe is expanding due to, I guess, Hubble's. I actually have not done a lot of research on this, but I need to do more. But on like, red phase shift. We know that the universe is expanding and stuff like that.
Yeah, do you know that, or something that you've been told?
I could probably. I mean, I'm decent at math. I could probably just look it up and stuff like that.
Do you know that, or is it something you've been told? You know what's awesome about this conversation is that you can be truthful about it. Nobody is looking over your shoulder to see if you're going to answer this correctly or not. Now,
you're right.
Do you know what you're talking about? Is it true, or do you just believe that somebody said some words that sounds like what it is, and you're just repeating them?
I believe that the universe is expanding, but I only believe it because I haven't heard anything to the contrary, and also
Well, yeah,
like
they could also tell you that fabulous unicorns are up there too, but you don't know that either. So
I
how
would
do you
find
know
that
that
like less
information?
plausible though.
Yeah, plausible. Okay, let's just solidify a point. Let's see if you know what you know. How do you know the universe is expanding in any way? Can you articulate that?
Because at one point, well, I believe in the Big Bang model,
Okay.
which implies that there was at one point a singularity, and and then that follows that the universe is, again, like it doesn't directly follow, but under the model at least we can know the universe expanding. Like, and I believe that part of it, but I haven't, double checked or anything like that.
Okay, well, let's double check. How do you know that the Big Bang model is anything to deal with like the reality of when you look outside and look at the night sky? How do you know that model actually fits what you see?
I guess I would say like it's I guess I don't know. That's a good question. I think
I know it
like
is.
I learned
So
stuff about
think about this,
yeah,
right? The reason I'm letting you kind of think about it is because we've been told a lot of things about what's up there, but we don't have any
right,
way to discern whether or not it's true. So this paradigm, and which you're carrying currently, you think is only true based on somebody telling you that it is, but there's no real way that you can verify it in any means that you can detect. So you're just you're happy to accept anything that they're telling you based on like a narrative. And what I'm
I
asking
guess
for right
like
now, what I'm asking for right now, Happy, is you to take an actual second look and just think about it, right? Critically think about all the components that are the things that they tell you. So you went from, Big Bang cosmology to like redshift and blue shift. There's a lot of things you've said based on these like buzzwords that have been given to you. However, upon further investigation, you don't know what those terms mean or the implications of them. They're very
right.
hollow. These terms, they're very hollow for you. And I'm giving you the floor so that you can define what they mean so that you can at least have a, topical knowledge of what they mean. You don't even have that.
I guess I reason from I think the evidence makes sense. I
What
think I
evidence? I'm
trust.
asking. Yeah, that's what I'm asking for right now. There hasn't been any evidence presented except for your knowledge of some buzzwords. These buzzwords
You
are
know,
given to you, so I'm saying, okay, go ahead and tell me. What do you know about these words? What do
okay,
they mean?
so I believe it was sometime in the early 1900s. I'm pretty sure it could have been 1800s, 1900s. I'm actually not sure.
Okay.
But Edwin Hubble.
Yes.
So you know about redshift, right?
What about it? Tell me.
Well, we know that galaxies move faster away from us.
How do we know that?
Because Edwin Hubble. I'm sorry, that's secular. I guess like
You can't say it that way. Yeah, go ahead, rephrase.
I would say, like okay, so light is made of waves. We
How do
all
you know
agree
that? I'm sorry, but this is kind of like
because
I'm gonna
when
sound like
we
a 3-year-old to you when you
okay, you see Mark's profile picture right now.
Mark's profile picture.
Yeah.
What about Mark's profile
The
picture?
Pink Floyd,
the
Pink
prism?
Floyd prism. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
So when we do that, we determine that the light is comprised of different like a spectrum, right?
okay?
We can determine using devices that light is made of waves, and then I guess like we can also observe the Doppler effect.
What's
in
the
an
Doppler
ambulance.
effect, sir?
Well, you know how like a siren sounds like lower pitched when an ambulance drives away.
Okay.
That's the Doppler effect. And so like
And what
when
does that have to do with light?
well, because when a source of waves moves like away from you, then the waves get like stretched out, making them longer. And when the waves are longer, then the light shifts towards the red end of the spectrum
The Doppler
because
effect has to
longer
do with
wavelength.
sound, yes?
It also it has to do with
You mean
waves
the
in
inverse
general,
square law?
sound waves, light
Do
waves.
you mean the inverse square law? Is that what you're saying? You're trying to
Could be,
articulate?
but I actually haven't looked at it. But I do know that the
Yeah,
Doppler effect
so
deals with like
the
sound waves
Doppler
and
effect
light
has to
waves.
do with sound. What does it have to do with light?
But it also has to do with light waves, like waves in general. The Doppler effect applies to all that. So when waves are longer, the light shifts towards the red end of the spectrum, and so there's lower energy and lower wavelength.
So now you're seeing colors in the sky. Certain things that you're looking at are shifting from different colors. So how do you know something particular is doing what you say it's doing, moving away or moving closer? How do you know that?
Because we see, we look into space and we see longer waves, and that implies that.
Yeah, I know,
stuff is
but
moving
on
away.
what? On what?
What do you mean, like the waves?
Yeah, where do we see this color?
We see the red end of the light spectrum
Where?
in space.
In space, just in general? When I look up at the night sky, I see red, and therefore the universe is expanding. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
so like a I forget the name. It's like spectra something. But like, when we look through that device, that measures light.
Yeah, okay, it measures light, but in a controlled environment or an uncontrolled environment?
In like any environment,
Any
it measures
environment.
light. You can point
Really?
it towards like.
How do you
Yeah,
know
you can
that's
point.
true? How do you know it's in any environment?
What do you mean?
How do you know it works in any environment? The device.
Because, well, I guess like we can look at we can collect light from like a galaxy or a star.
Yeah, I know, but how do you know it works in outside? Just what you're telling me right now, we can collect light from a galaxy. All these things that you're telling me right now, either you don't know what they mean or you're just filling in the blanks from some idea of what you think a story has been told to you. Like you don't even it's hard to do this when somebody has so many ideas of what things are. Like you don't know what a galaxy is to define what it is and then describe if you're actually seeing the thing that you're telling
How
me.
do you know I don't know what a galaxy is?
What's a galaxy, sir?
A collection of stars and planets and asteroids held together by gravity.
What's the point of verification for that to be true? What you said.
I guess I would say I suppose you wouldn't concede that direct observation would be a point of
No, I'm asking you,
verification.
when has this been done? Like, how do you know that's true?
For me, direct observation is
How do you
direct
know somebody's
verification.
ever done something like that, looked at something called a galaxy and seen all those things that you said that are there? All the stars.
We can, yeah. So if you look in a telescope, whatever telescope you want,
Okay.
you can see galaxies.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
And you've seen galaxies?
Yeah. You can go
Really?
to the your local national observatory and look through telescopes as well.
Sorry, mate. You don't see what you said they're made of.
Yeah,
Sorry?
you've given it like these constituent parts that a galaxy is made of. You don't see those things inside of what you think you see. You might see something, but you don't know what the thing is that you're looking at. You're just giving us ideas of what you think they could be. Or rather, someone is telling you what they think they could be. It's like their idea, and they're giving their idea to you. And you're coming in here with confidence saying that's what they are.
If you look at space telescopes,
telescopes, like which one?
Like the ones you'd find in like an observatory.
Okay, let's look at an observatory telescope. And what are we looking through there? We're seeing galaxies. Yes?
Yeah, you can see much more detail than like a regular telescope.
Okay, so we can see all the constituent parts of a galaxy, stars and black holes and all that. We can look through a telescope and
you can't observe a black hole. You can observe the effects of a black hole.
Whatever you think is inside a galaxy, do you think that we're gonna look at galaxies and see all those things inside of that galaxy?
I don't know. I think you would see all sorts of things.
So this is the problem.
I guess it depends on the galaxy.
I'm actually I don't care which one. Pick one, and then find out whether or not you can see all its components as you so declare.
Okay. I mean,
it's called critical thinking. We're investigating all the terms and things that you think underline your worldview.
Okay, so let's say like the Milky Way, for example.
There's a fundamental problem with the way you think.
So do you believe the Milky Way exists?
No, it's not about the Milky Way. It's about you trying to describe your worldview in a coherent way. That doesn't sound like you're borrowing from some guy's idea, fantasy of what he thinks space is, which is what I know that it is. Do I believe in the
Milky Way? You know that direct observation is a credible way of determining things to be true, right?
Okay, so you're telling me that the Milky Way is something you've confirmed to be true? Spiral galaxy? I know the
yes,
story.
we can
I'm
confirm
asking
the
you.
Milky Way.
Yeah, we can confirm it? Is that what you said? We can confirm the
Yeah.
Milky Way. How did we confirm it?
Well, we can like observe it in the night sky.
Really? That's redundant. Are you just observing things? I'm at
You know that
how do you
science.
describe it? Describe how you know that there's a spiral galaxy that you reside within. How did you
Well,
determine that?
Okay, so if we look up, we can see the
Yeah.
combined light of many stars.
Okay,
We
that's
can
great.
map stars and
Combined
their
light.
distances.
We can map
So we can
them.
measure the distance to many stars using, parallax and things like that.
Things like that. Okay, so you're saying that parallax is going to determine whether you're in a spiral galaxy, yeah?
Yeah, because we can measure the distance between stars.
So how did you notice that you were inside of a spiral galaxy? You're just talking about parallax. That doesn't give us an indication of anything. You're just seeing something far away move, across the sky.
So if I can just entertain this line of questioning for a second. There are certain things that we look at through direct observation, like rocks, and you don't have to be a geologist to know that it's a rock, right? So when we look up and we see stars, we don't have to be verified scientists to know that it's a star.
Yeah, so you were talking about parallax. In what way can you describe that in any way functions in the observations that you make? Can you describe it?
Well, if we observe a star from Earth at two different times, because, and just to entertain this idea, Earth orbits the sun. I know you probably don't agree, but the viewpoint changes. And so let's say it's like 6 months apart. It would change like by a factor of a few million kilometers. And then the star appears to shift slightly against more distant stars. And then we can use parallax.
Whoa. So has that ever occurred? Because you're saying this occurs. What have you seen in the form of parallax? Because you're saying that the stars aren't moving uniform. There's some that are moving faster or slower than others. Yes.
Yeah.
You don't see stars moving uniform together in the sky. They're all moving like independent from each other.
Oh no! When we observe it, they're moving like they seem to be moving
independent from each other.
So yeah, so
isn't that what parallax is? Like you see the stars in the foreground move differently than the stars in the background.
In this context, you can like. Have you seen like an animation
of
like
parallax is, sir? I'm asking a question. Isn't that what parallax is? Stars in the foreground move different than the stars in the background.
Yes, parallax is where you have two objects and one is like a different velocity.
Okay, when
than the
has
other.
this been witnessed?
Well, you can. When has this been witnessed? You're asking? I mean, we've measured it in like 1838.
Since 1838. So what model is this following?
Frederick Bessel. His paper would probably have some more information on it.
Frederick Bessel.
Can you explain what he did?
In 1838.
Yeah.
I think what happened was, I think before the 1800s, it was hard to prove that the Earth actually orbits the sun by measuring star distances, because stars are very far away. The closest star is our sun. And so, telescopes and measurements and stuff like that were probably not powerful enough to detect the small changes. And so what I think he did was he used a special device that could measure small angles between stars. And then he observed helio something.
Helio something.
Like a heliometer, helio spectrometer or something.
What is this?
I think it's called heliometer.
What does it do?
It is used to measure the measure the small angle distances between stars. This is a machine that's designed exactly for this purpose.
Yeah, as in the stars in the foreground move differently than the ones in the background.
Yeah, no, this device is to measure the angle differences.
We're trying to figure out at the moment how stellar parallax is being applied into any observation. because I'm kind of confused here. You haven't described what model we're actually adhering to. There's a few of them, right? So you haven't described what model we're actually adhering to currently, or whether or not you know in history how they've actually came to be proposed. So we're trying to figure out what model are you following currently? Because you're talking about stellar parallax. It's really hard for me to get you to actually answer anything directly. What model do you adhere to currently?
I think, like the name of the model.
Yes.
Like the geometric model, or like
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, when we apply stellar parallax, astronomers rely on a geometric model.
Let's see. There's a question by Sporadic. He's asking if he wants to know if you know about the Ptolemaic model or the Tychonian model. You know any of them?
The Ptolemaic model or the Tychonian model. I actually don't.
Okay, how about the Copernican model?
Wait, are these like... I probably don't know of them because they're probably like much older models.
Look in the text chat. This is going to help you out.
Wait, hang on. I just want to go back. Like, do you think that... So you said that I was incorrect when I said the geometric model. What model do you think it is?
No,
to measure
I'm asking for your results.
Because I think you're wrong.
I didn't say anything. I haven't proposed any model yet. What I'm saying.
No, you said. You said what model do you think we're using? I said the geometric model, and you said nope.
So.
And I think you're wrong.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. First of all, you don't. You have to. Okay.
So prove to me you're right regarding the geometric model.
No. This isn't proof to me you're right. This is you actually standing on your claim.
Well, then don't say I'm wrong. If you can't substantiate a claim, then don't say I'm wrong.
Wait a minute. That's your claim. You said geometric model, right?
No, you made a negative claim saying I'm wrong.
Negative?
You said nope.
No, sir. No.
You said nope.
You said geometric model. You didn't provide a source.
Yeah, and you replied nope.
So yeah, provide a source for what you're talking about. Let's see if it has any context. I'm asking for your
geometric model.
Yes.
Like a geometric model that's vague.
Yeah.
Like, that's just geometry.
Yeah. Post what you're talking about with a source to actually adhere to anything in astronomy.
I don't think you'd accept any source. You wouldn't accept NASA though, right? Because they're conspiracy theory.
Just post your evidence, sir. This is you standing on your claim.
Don't poison them up.
Okay, sure. Hang on.
Post what you got. Let's see if your geometric model. Hold on. There's a link here. You guys can click on it too.
I don't know if that works though.
No, bro. It's a link that's broken.
Damn.
It's a link that's broken.
I think you need to sign it. Like, I don't know if that works on... Let me open incognito 1 second. I can try and find another link.
That'd be great.
Would you accept NASA?
I don't care what you give us, as long as it confirms what you're saying, and then we could look into it. How about that?
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, we got Morvis posting in the text chat, geometric model and overview. A geometric model, also known as a three-dimensional 3D computer-aided design, or CAD model, is a vital representation used to design physical systems. That's what that is. Let's see what we got. You got a .gov, okay, parallax. Where in here does it talk about geometric model, sir? Go ahead. Point us to it.
Well, it doesn't explicitly mention the geometric model.
Oh, for God's
Wait, do you want me to like push you like...
That's what I'm asking for, sir. I'm asking for a direct correlation to what you said to what the text would say. Where you came up with
let me get a national link something.
Yeah, get whatever backs up your claim is what we need right now.
Okay. Second.
You guys in the audience can click along with me. I clicked that link that he posted, so he hasn't given us an indication where we need to go within that, so I haven't went anywhere yet. I just opened it up, but I'm not looking at it currently until he finds the place where it says geometric model is the model that we're
I found this PDF. It basically talks about
Okay.
the gravitational field of Earth and stuff like that.
Yeah. Where does it talk about the geometric model, sir?
Actually, hang on. That's probably not the best example when it comes to
sakes.
space. Let me test a different one.
Sir, do you have a link to the geometric model?
Okay,
in
calm
which you
down,
could-
calm down. Just be patient.
No, I'm asking, do you have it? Do you have it with you, or are you just making it up?
No, I don't have these things like on hand, like in a list
So
somewhere.
did you just
like,
make it up? Let's get a concession going. Did you make this up?
no, I remember. No, I learned this in school. Okay,
You learned it in
like
school, and they specifically called it a geometric model. Yes?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. You believe so. You're unsure. It sounds like you're wavering here. You're unsure.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna try and find something on stellar parallax for you. Because that's probably
we're moving off the reservation, sir. You said that you have a way to describe the geometric model. Where is it?
You want something that specifically says geometric model?
It's the words you used. I'm going based off what you said.
Okay.
Right now, we're only going to go based off what you say, and backing up your claim it should be in your mind paramount. You do have the floor. I want you to tell.
I'm trying to find something.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, it takes you a while to dig for what you thought you already had.
I mean, I could be wrong.
You are, but I'm just waiting for the penny to drop, so you can admit with a concession I was wrong. It takes pride a little time sometimes. You have to go to the.
You don't need to be arrogant about it.
Wrong.
No, you don't need to be arrogant. It's okay.
That's not arrogance. It's just that when somebody is stubborn, it takes them a while to actually admit that they were wrong. But I'm happy for you to actually go through the motions. It's good for content.
You get up on this?
People need to listen to other people try and fail. It's good for the content because people don't realize. They think like you right now. They're like, oh, let him speak. Maybe he's got a point. No, for sure. We want you to actually go through the motions so you can see for yourself that there isn't anything of what you're describing. And then it'll be like, oh, sorry, I was wrong.
Okay, here's stellar parallax. This is a type of geometric model.
A type of geometric model? No, sir. We need to look for it specifically where it says geometric model. Yes?
Okay.
That's what we're looking for.
I can give you a Wikipedia link.
I mean, do what you must. But it better say exactly what you said to back up your claim. Do what you must. Okay, geometric model. That was easy enough. Okay, so how are we following this and when we look up at the night sky, sir? Point to the Wikipedia citation where it says that.
Well, as far as I'm aware, it's a model that can be used to convert what we see in the sky into real distances.
Real distances. Okay, point citation, please. Point in this Wikipedia source where it says that.
Okay, can I have a minute?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Take your time.
All right.
We're happy to wait for the concession, even if it takes a minute. Yeah, it'll take you a little bit. Go ahead. Look through your source.
Okay, just 1 second.
In the meantime, what's up with everybody? Welcome. We're talking with Happy right now, so going back and forth. This is usually what happens with people that are very confident to know that they think the way that they've heard about the cosmos being described to them is how exactly it is. And upon further investigation of their thoughts and the terms, they realize it doesn't mean what they said. Takes them a while sometimes. Glad to see everybody here. We're also speaking to people on the YouTube chat. If you guys like to join us, go ahead and join the politics server. Oh, we're up to 98,000 people in here. And as I checked this morning, we're the #1 voice channel again. Took us a minute to reclaim that, but we did. So kudos to everybody in here.
Sweet.
Sorry, my Discord crashes sometimes. Okay, I could have meant method, maybe not geometric model, but
so a concession. You misspoke, yes?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, let's kind of reset. Okay, so what term are we looking for here?
Well, I have a really good link. Hang on. Here we go.
Okay. Now, what is the claim?
The claim is we can look up the sky and measure the parallax of stars.
Okay. Let's look at your source. Spiff.e. What does it say? Spiffnet.edu. Parallax and other geometric methods. Okay.
Because you mentioned that they measure angular distance between stars, right?
That was one of the things he said.
Yeah, like they had a machine that measured the distance between stars.
The angular distance.
Like
right?
the angle.
Okay.
Yeah, the angle.
Yeah, but they'd have to measure a change in the angular distance between stars in order to infer parallax, right? They wouldn't necessarily be witnessing parallax because that could be an actual change, right, between two objects which are the same distance apart.
Yeah, they wait a bit of time. Sometimes it's a few months.
Okay,
even then, that could literally just be like an actual change between two objects that are equidistant apart or equidistant from the observer.
Yeah, in other words, they haven't changed. So
wait, how would that be though?
So, well, wait a minute. Wait. Now, how would that be? Look, so your claim right now, according to what this, do you know anything about what you just put in the text? The source?
Yeah. So as far as I understand the source to explain it, it's basically just talking about stellar parallax. It's talking about how like when you have the shift of like when you have a star that's closer, the shift of that star against other background stars as Earth orbits.
Gonna have to defend those distances now.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's riddled with a lot of presuppositions. That statement you just
I guess it is.
It's riddled with presuppositions. So you have to examine the statement, right?
So do I have to like defend Earth's orbit now or what?
Yes, dude. Like there's so much in there. There's so much in there that's already taken as a foregone conclusion that you're just assuming is the case. It's
like
it's
almost differences in distances.
Yeah, that's correct. Now T-Dub is bringing up some good points, right? So we have to examine the claim. I mean, this is the tough part for you. You're gonna have to examine whether or not you could stand by whatever the statement is, as the different components of what you just said, right?
I guess I would explain like Earth's orbit. Like proof of that would probably be seasons.
Okay, based on what?
Well, like, if we assume
what's the basis for seasons being showing you that Earth is orbiting?
Well, because Earth is tilted on axis.
Presupposition. That's another presupposed information.
Well, we're going to be here for a very, very long time.
I know that,
if I have to defend everything.
Happy. The problem is people have been given a paradigm that it's like claim stacking. It's stacked up. It's like a layer of pancakes. Like, so you have everything is resting on a foundation, but all of these claims are resting on this cosmos that you believe to be true based on all of these claims that have been stacked upon it. So you don't know that, right? You're coming in here just like, well, I think this is how it's worked out. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? And I sound like a 3-year-old asking you, well, how do you know that? Well, how do you know that? Like, and to you, it's like, dude, why do we got to sift through all this? This is the critical thinking part of the process that we go through for the people that come through here, because you're just assuming that's true. So we have to understand that we don't know if that's true or not based on the information given. That's why I'm getting you to realize none of this has any foundational coherence to anything we can test and verify. Which right now that you know seasons, right, tying that into the Earth's orbit, it doesn't have any real coherence. Not that any way that you can verify. Not unless you're going to tell me you can. I mean, I'll allow you to do that. Can you tie in seasons to how you know the Earth's orbiting? I'll allow you. Go ahead. Try it.
Okay. Like, I think, well, first, I would say something like, the Earth orbits the sun, but I guess I'm making two assumptions here, right? So the first assumption is that Earth is rotating, and then the second one is Earth is rotating around the sun.
Okay.
Right?
Well, you've identified them, so you know that they're there. So
those are the claims that I'm making, yeah.
Right. how can they be substantiated? I'm getting you to look at this so you can
Okay,
see.
so if we do this in like the form of like a syllogism, right?
Yes,
like if premise one is like the Earth's axis is tilted to like I think 20 or 20 something degrees, this is like a measurable, observable fact. Do you want me to substantiate premise one?
No. Okay, so the statement starts off with an if, which is suggestive, meaning that it's not a true statement. So think about it. The two premises has to be true. They have to be true. They equal the conclusion to be absolute, right? So if you're going to tell me that the first statement starts with an if, that's suggestive. It doesn't give you the indication that the first premise is true.
I mean, I could rephrase it just to say Earth's axis has a tilt.
Yeah, I know that. But then if you claim that, you're going to have to prove it. So it has to be backed up by true information. It's not true that you know that there is an axis because you didn't. You have to first define how it's true, right? So each part of the syllogism has to be the components that make it. You're going to have to define how you know that to be true statement. So, okay, you talked about axis, right? The tilt of the axis.
So we track. Wait, hang on. Like, I want to substantiate the claim of the axial tilt. So like we track where the sun rises and sets every day over the course of a year.
Yeah, depending where you are geographically, yes, that's true.
Yeah,
depends where
and in summer. Okay, wait, hang on. So in summer, the sun rises northeast and sets northwest and climbs like
and that's
high
not always
in the
true,
sky.
Unless it just depends where you are. Is what I'm saying. Depends where you are. It has to be geographically true. So if you're, in Australia, it would be different than North America, right? So that statement would vary depending on where you are geographically. But go on. I want you to make the.
Wait, I want to respond to what you said though.
I'll put it regionally. If I'm in Melbourne, in Australia, then this is what I would witness this statement to be. You have to preface it with at least some context to know.
Okay, so like in Sydney, right? Like in the Northern Hemisphere, let's say in June, the sun rises northeast and sets northwest, and then you have the summer solstice where it gets high in the sky, and then in December, it rises southeast and sets southwest and gets lowest in the sky, which is the winter solstice. And we know that daylight lasts longer in the summer and shorter in the winter. And and the poles of the Earth, you have one long day and then one long night per year. And then during summer, the sun never sets, called the midnight sun. And then during winter, the sun never rises at the poles in the
so
in the
far,
winter.
Observationally, you're a bit on track. A little bit needs to be cleaned up with what you said, but I can get the gist of where you're going. So,
right.
I mean, as far as the facts go, we could probably clean that up later. But go ahead.
So the global pattern of like how the sun like moves across the sky at different times of the year is only possible.
Stop. You said global. That's a connotation that indicates that you're talking about a globe. That statement is not true. It's a begging the question statement. So
then we're going to be moving around in circles because it's going to be like
circles, sir. We're identifying specifically where you're actually making assumptions, and it's not a true statement unless it's a complete true statement where there is no assumptions or begging the questions.
Can I explain what I mean when I say that?
Sure.
What I mean is, let's say I talk about something and I say the sun, and then you're like, well, what do you mean by the sun? I talk about something.
No. The words, right? Global. The connotation for that would mean that you think you're talking about the oblate spheroid globe.
Okay, I don't have to say I can see like the word global is like a sensitive word. I won't say global. I'll just say like
Earth.
the pattern. But yes, the earthly pattern of how the sun moves across the sky at like different times of the year is only possible if the Earth is tilted and Earth orbits the sun.
If, sir. I'm pointing.
So I'm substantiating the claim.
Yeah, the claim has to be a true statement, though. So if like the premises has to be true. So if you use the word "if" anywhere, that doesn't mean it's true. It's suggestive to mean it lends credence to it being suggestive. So you can't say "if" in any of the statements of a premise for a logical syllogism. It has to be this is how it is as an observation. This is empirical. You were good. You were good at talking about like geographically what what you would witness, right? That's fine. I didn't have any problem with that because everybody would say that if I'm in Australia, in Sydney, this is what would be witnessed, right? That's fine. There's nothing
Okay.
wrong there. Yeah, but what I'm saying is when you go into the if statements or use terms like global, that's already assuming that the Earth is a globe, and or
But what I'm
saying
yeah.
suggestively with if.
But what I'm saying is, without the two facts that the Earth is tilted and the Earth orbits the sun, the
That's not
sun's
a fact.
yearly. I don't just
That's not a
entertain
fact,
it.
sir.
Just
No, I
entertain it for
can't.
2
No, no, no.
seconds.
It doesn't. It can't be entertained in a logical syllogism. Entertaining things can't. It doesn't equal to the conclusion being true. So the statements have to be empirical, right? They have to be true. So when they're true statements, like the two syllogisms, or excuse me, the two premises will have to be at equaling the conclusion, which would be the absolute truth statement. It's true, but it's not true because it's like entertaining. Just entertain it for no. That's not how logic works.
What
Either you
I'm
have
saying
something that's
is,
true or not.
what I'm saying is, the sun, the yearly motion of the sun and the seasons cannot be explained.
No, no, you can't do
consistent.
that either.
Okay.
I have to stop you because it's not. It cannot happen on a flat Earth either. That's not. You can't make the true statement based on something you say that it can't be. It has to be something that is. This is a lesson in logic, dude. You have to realize that you can't make things that are what it's not. You have to make what it is. It's an affirmation of what it actually is. True statements. Yes?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. No, I understand what you're saying.
Again. Try again. I'm not discrediting that. You've already made at least one true statement. An observation made from Sydney, witnessing the sun move across the sky, northeast to northwest. That everything was good there. I want to lead
sun
you to
moving
the right
across the sky. Sun moving across the sky. That's an interesting thing to say.
Yeah, it is. As an observation for the.
Would you agree? Okay, we're talking about logic here. So would you agree that premises? Would you agree that premises can contain the word if?
If you're not going to give a logical conclusion to something being true, are you saying that the statement will then be true in the conclusion or not?
Well, make a
decision. Are you saying?
Well, the reason why I'm asking you
or not?
The reason why I'm asking you this question is because I want to know if I'm allowed to use the word if I'm constructing a logical premise.
Well, logical and something being true would follow hand in hand. So something that's true means that it's logical. Something that's not true would follow it being illogical.
So is that a yes?
Yeah, did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I heard what you said.
Okay, so can you follow the logic to give true statements on the premises and then give a conclusion to it being also the true statement?
Okay, here's an example of me using logical premises to validate or to substantiate the argument that the Earth is tilted and orbits the sun. Here's the first premise. If the Earth is tilted and orbits the sun...
You said if.
No? Okay, bro.
You can't start with if, bro. That's not... Premises have to be true. Okay, you have to say the Earth is tilted. Okay, it's malformed. You have to use... True statements are the Earth's axis, or the Earth is tilted on its axis. But then if that's true, though, think about this. If that's true, it has to have already been known. Like you can say that with all assurance that what your statement is true based upon some empirical means, right? People.
Okay, can I try again? True. Can I try again?
Go ahead.
Okay, here's premise one. Over the course of a year, right? We see like the sun's position in the sky, like at noon, it changes. Yes. And we can predict the pattern that it changes by, right? So like sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, right?
Yeah, so far
we agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, here's the second premise. At the length of daylight,
guys,
it changes.
It's me, 0102. I'm really happy to be in this voice chat. Guys, excuse him.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
At the length of here's premise 2. The length of daylight, it changes throughout the year, right? So it's longer in summer, shorter in winter, and opposite hemispheres experience opposite seasons at the same time. Do we agree?
That's empirical. Yes. Continue.
Okay. So, and then here's premise 3, right? The only known geometric model that consistently explains the sun's changing altitude and the shifting sunrise and sunset positions and the opposite hemispheres having opposite seasons is a model in which the Earth has a fixed axial tilt and orbits the sun. So in models where the sun orbits a stationary Earth without like Earth's tilt, then these observations cannot be explained simply or like consistently, especially when, for example, you have like the reversal of seasons across hemispheres. and like changes in like solar angle and like stuff like that. So yeah, that like my conclusion would be the most coherent explanation for like how we observe this stuff is that Earth is tilted and orbits the sun.
Yeah, but the third premise, well, you include a lot of words. There's people in the text that would have a bit of beef with the word hemisphere. Do you know what that means? Before I get into the third premise, kind of break that down for you.
Yes, hemisphere. Just okay. I can understand why a flat earther would have the problem with the word
don't
hemisphere.
say flat earther. Don't use it. Just tell people what hemisphere.
Hemisphere just means half a sphere. Yeah.
Okay, half of what sphere?
In this context, I'm talking about like the eastern hemisphere and like the east half, like Africa,
right,
Europe, Asia, Australia.
Break this down for you. I'll give you something to chew on, right? When you say hemisphere, do you mean celestial sphere or do you mean terrestrial sphere? Terrestrial meaning the earth, celestial meaning the sky. So what do you think it means when you say hemisphere?
I guess in this situation, I'd probably be saying terrestrial hemispheres. Like
Correct.
by that,
I know that's what you meant, but I just want you to clarify for the audience. So
okay, no worries.
So if the third premises was put to where you're talking about hemisphere as in the Earth being a terrestrial sphere, that is
right.
begging the question. We don't know that the Earth is a globe. This is the conclusion should be based on the true statements, right? That it is. So you went to 3 premises. You could have just went at 2, but you wanted to include a third one, which the third
Well, you
one,
can include any number of premises.
You can't use your conclusion in one of your premises.
No, premise 3 didn't have a. Well, I can understand that that's begging the question, but
yes.
But I'm saying that a syllogism can use a number of premises.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you is that even the third one was showing that you still are begging the question by using the hemisphere connotation to say that you're speaking of a terrestrial sphere. It's already stating that.
Right.
Oh, that. Okay, so over fences says that you even in premise 2 you're using hemisphere. And now that I know that you mean hemisphere as a terrestrial sphere, I think that's still in premise 2 that would be begging the question. Good catch to over fences.
Okay. But, yeah, I agree. That is a good catch. I guess like if we stick to like I can like stick to observation, I guess.
That would be great.
Without like presupposing stuff.
I'll let you redo it if you want.
Can I redo premise 3?
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, premise 2 had hemisphere, so you mean terrestrial sphere. Now that I know that's what you mean.
Okay.
Just restate all the premises. Go ahead. Start from the beginning. The first one was solid.
Okay, so like so do we all agree that like the sun exists and stuff like that? Like that's not like
a go there. We all agree that the first premise of what you had was good.
Okay, so like over the course of a year, right, the position of the sun in the sky changes at noon like consistently. We can predict it. It appears higher, sometimes lower, stuff like that. And excuse me.
That's premise 1, right?
Well, yeah. Hang on. And then like you have the sunrise and the sunset, and that the points of that also shift along the horizon like over the year. And then premise 2. Which is like the length of daylight changes throughout the year, where like one region experiences longer days and like hotter conditions, like in summer, and then
that's correct.
Another region has like the opposite, like shorter days and stuff like that. And then premise 3. Okay, I have to be careful here. Premise 3. Like any model that describes the Earth and the Sun must be able to explain all of these observed facts together, like the changing height of the sun in the sky. You have like the shifting sunrise and sunset locations on the horizon. You have the opposite seasonal daylight patterns experienced in different part of the world. And in premise 4, if you're assuming a flat Earth model, is like models that assume the flat Earth without a tilted like axis, it would struggle to explain these observations without adding inconsistencies. And so premise 5 would probably be a model where the Earth is a sphere tilted on an axis and orbiting the sun naturally, and that simply explains these observations. And then my conclusion is like based on the evidence and like how simple the explanation is, the model of like a tilted orbiting spherical Earth is probably the best explanation for these patterns of like the sun's motion and the seasonal changes.
All right, let's get a critique. Let's get a critique going by all of the panel. So you guys who are only in text, post what you want to do in text, and I'll hear anybody that wants to speak. Go ahead and give a critique to the logical syllogism that he proposed with 5 premises. Oh wait, was it 4 and 1 conclusion? Is that what I?
It was 5 and a conclusion.
5 and a conclusion. Okay, so 5 and a conclusion. Did you guys hear any consistency there? What are the discrepancies? This is peer reviewed based on 24/7. Go ahead, Tito.
I didn't hear any justification as to why he thinks that the best explanation for this observation is a spherical, a tilted, spinning spherical Earth, and it's just a bare assertion. It's just a declaration. Well, I just say that, you need to give a reason why you think that.
I believe that because it naturally and simply fits all the observed facts, like the sun's, changing height, seasons.
That's just another bare assertion. That's not explaining why you think that.
Why not? Because models
it hasn't detailed how it explains it, and it wouldn't even matter if you could necessarily explain why this seems to fit this observation. You'd still then have to go ahead and prove that your explanation is the reason why you're seeing what you're seeing. Otherwise, it's just an argument from credulity.
Argument from credulity?
Yeah, it's just you saying, I think this is the best thing. I just think that fits, it works. It's probably it.
How is that an argument from credulity? I haven't heard that
you'd have to actually detail how it's proven that this is the case. Therefore, it is the explanation, not the best explanation. It is.
It's incredulity because in premise 4 you strawmanned our position and you acted as if that was ridiculous, and then jumped onto your premise 5 where you're begging the question of the globe again before your conclusion is it's a globe.
No, in premise 5 I'm highlighting the strengths of the spherical Earth model. In premise 4,
hold on. Happy, I just want to clarify something for. I think you said credulity. You don't know. Do you know what the term means? Credulity?
Yeah, I googled it. What is it? Like if I've perceived X to be the case, then I'm warranted in believing that X is the case. I just didn't hear it. I just didn't heard it before.
It's a tendency, the definition from the dictionary, a tendency to be too ready to believe that something is real or true. That's just
credulity.
Yeah, but that's what T-Dub was saying. You're ready to believe this. You're not. There's no foundation for an actual, empirical.
Haven't I substantiated a foundation?
No, I want to go back to Drace because he brought a point in premise 5. Go ahead. I just wanted you to figure out what credulity meant. Go ahead, Drace.
Yeah, so you went on to say, well, the globe model appears to match with the observations that we have laid out. However, there's problems in that you don't know about, and you're just assuming all of these things match perfectly.
Enlighten me.
For instance, you said the sun appears to go higher or lower. What causes that?
I would imagine that you're talking about the solstices, right? I would probably imagine that the Earth axis is tilted, and the Earth orbits the sun.
Why would you assume that it's tilted, though, bro?
I'm substantiating the claim that the Earth orbits the sun and is tilted. So of course I'm going to prove that the Earth is tilted.
But what makes you believe that it's tilted?
We're going down this. I'm substantiating the claim now.
It's important.
That's what we've been looking at.
Each component of why you think something's true has to be actually, examined.
Yeah, you're sneaking in your conclusion inside all of your arguments.
Premise 4 and premise 5.
Therefore, it's a globe. That's just all I'm hearing.
Yeah. So I'll go back to. Hold on. You're being at least a bit cordial. So I want to. Subdued came in with his information. He just wants you to point out how do you know that this tilt is what you're witnessing. There needs to be a lot of examination as to why you'd say that's true. It's built, like I'm telling you, it's built upon a lot of presuppositions. Happy, I was saying at the beginning.
So even if I didn't include premise 4 and premise 5, the conclusion would still be valid.
Okay, so try doing it without the premise 4 and 5.
Okay, so in a year, we see the sun having different positions that we can predict, and then we have sunrise and sunset. They also change along the horizon over a year, like where it is. And then the second premise would be we have changing daylight hours throughout the year. We have literally opposite experiences for longer days and opposite seasons. And then premise 3 is just any model that describes Earth and the sun must be able to explain all of premise 1 and premise 2 together. The changing height of the sun, the shifting sunrise and sunset locations, opposite seasons, and daylight and stuff like that. And then the conclusion again is just it's the best and most simple and evidential based explanation. And so here I'm not talking about I'm not using the word tilt. I'm not talking about
let's see. We're going to get a critique from the panel. So anything different that changed?
Let me hear. This is what I heard. Okay, so premise 1, sun is in different locations. Premise 2, sun moves. Premise 3, models must explain these things. Conclusion, Earth must be a globe. How is that logical?
No, I'm not talking about Earth must be a globe. I'm talking about it must be the most logical conclusion is that Earth is tilted on an axis and orbiting the sun.
But wasn't that premise 3 though? Premise 3 is the model that you're looking at, which is showing this. Yes?
Yes, I'm saying that premise 3 is just basically saying that any model describing the Earth together with the sun needs to be able to substantiate the collection of premise 1 and premise 2.
Right, but isn't a model begging the question?
This is just a requirement for explanation. This is premise 3. This isn't a logical part of the.
I get where you're going with that. I know what you mean. It's not lost on me. I know what you're saying.
Okay.
But a model would be begging the question because you're assuming that this model is what reality represents.
When I say any model, I literally mean any model. I'm not sneaking in the globe model.
But you've given the model specifics like tilt. So there's something within this model that denotes that you live on an Earth specific to the model.
Where did I say tilt in premise 1 or premise 2?
It was the third premise.
Where did I say tilt in premise 3?
The model. When you talked about the model.
It was also in the conclusion. When I told you that the conclusion is Earth must be a globe, you were like, no, it's the tilt and the other thing.
Yeah, you did it at the
when
conclusion.
I said a conclusion, a conclusion says no. My conclusion. So a conclusion doesn't have to prove. No, so
it's the absolute statement that all the premises. It's the summation of the premises, dude. It's what concludes from what the true statements of the premises are. So the third premise wasn't. And I'm pointing this out to you, man. It's the model that you're saying that what reality is modeled after. So it's an explanation. It's an explanation, and the conclusion is the explanation of the Earth that we live on, based on premise 1 and 2 being defined within the model on premise.
Yeah, if you're asking
don't you see premise 1 and 2? You're describing things in reality, right? No problem. Premise 3, you are invoking. Your own model and any other model you can imagine, because any model must explain this, right? Your model included, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so your model is included there, and so you're begging the question of your model in that, and the conclusion is the Earth must be a globe, but you never excluded any of the other models.
No, the conclusion excludes the other models, because if I'm unable to substantiate a claim by saying this and this, therefore this is why I believe this, but then you're like, aha, you said this is why you believe this, so you're I don't know what, sneaking in your thing.
In other words, it's not a true statement. You chose one belief over the other. It's called credulity.
That's exactly the reason why
Subdued presented to you earlier. That's what you have right now. You have credulity towards But anyway, we're trying to figure out.
It's not me being credulous. It's not me being credulous. It's me saying this is the simplest and most evidence-based explanation.
Yeah, but
it's not credulous.
Reality is not based on explanations. When we talk about empirical means to verify, like premise 1 and 2 was empirical because we.
You said reality isn't based on explanations.
Yeah, you have to be able to match or say, okay, I see this and this is what's happening. So I'm just telling you what I'm witnessing, right? In premise 3, you're not telling us what you witnessed. You're telling us what's been proposed as an idea to think about. Somebody gave you an idea to think about, and you've taken this idea and say, yeah, I think this could be what we live on. It's not true.
What I'm doing in premise 3.
Yeah, you didn't.
What I'm doing in premise.
You didn't compare it to anything else. You just said, well, based on that these things are explained in this model, then therefore my conclusion is it must be a globe.
We can also just destroy this really easily because it's not a globe, because the ground is measured flat, so that premise for your whole model and therefore your conclusion is also destroyed.
I can reconstruct premise 3 if you have a problem. I'd say sure. Any model, including a flat, stationary Earth model, struggles to explain premise 1 and premise 2 together without adding inconsistency.
Without adding inconsistency, what does that mean? I don't get that.
Like complex mechanisms.
Like what?
Like I would say. Well, you've seen you guys have a seasonal model that's highly complex, no?
What do you mean? We're just the observations that people make from the sun moving across the sky throughout the year from, the celestial sphere being that witnessed the sun moving from the Tropic of Capricorn to Cancer and back again.
Like, I guess what I mean by like inconsistency is like, I mean like, like internal contradictions. Like the model has to say or assume things that don't fit together logically. Like, here's an example, right? Like if the sun is always the same distance and moves in like a simple circle above a flat Earth, then it can't simultaneously.
Nobody says that though.
Yeah, it's a straw man.
Saying that. That's a straw man. No one's saying that.
Oh well, I was unclarified. That's literally when I looked at the model. That's what I thought it was.
No, what model?
Yeah, we don't have a
which
complete model.
What model are you saying? Are you speaking? Are you okay? Let's just. We didn't get to this part. What do you think is flat Earth? What is it in your head? Describe it to us.
Well, the Earth is a flat disk, and the sun moves in a circular path above the Earth's surface.
Oh boy!
Roughly.
That's all it was.
Our flat Earth that's the common flat Earth model.
Yeah, no. It was just it was you're misspeaking. You don't know what we with our cosmology. You don't know what we think, or you should just ask us, right? But right now, that's a straw man. You're in your head. So you built this whole argumentation based on that right there, and I think that was logically fallacious. So you can't have some idea of what flat Earth is and then base it upon what we are, saying collectively, because you don't know. You should have just asked.
Can I just explain why I don't think it's a straw man? It's because this is like the actual
it's
common flat Earth model.
It's a straight out straw man. It's not what you think it is. We're telling you that's not what we say the Earth is. So then
but if the majority of flat Earth proponents describe the sun as like
that's not true.
That's a stereotype fallacy. That's a stereotype fallacy. You just said. You're stereotyping all of us to be like one specific idea.
You're also saying you're claiming the majority of flat earthers X and Y. Problem is, you're not the majority of flat earthers. You don't know the majority of flat earthers. What you see is global propaganda and strawmans against flat earthers, and you attribute that to all flat earthers.
Yeah, it's just
okay. So if I Google like the flat Earth model, I won't see that, right?
Yeah, but that's a problem. Though.
That's the propaganda that Driz just told you about.
Yeah, he's
silly.
People are filling your mind with something of what we think about it. You're coming in here kind of like ready to discard all.
So would you say flatearthsociety.org is propaganda? And if I look at that website, I won't see that model.
100%.
100%.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so what's like a non-propaganda site that I can look at?
Since this started,
we're here right now.
But like, is there a synthesization of information?
Hold on. Let Driz come in here. Driz.
Oh no, I don't want to talk to this guy. He's a little bit too obtuse for me.
He's asking what website do we need to go to? You're here. You're locked in.
Yeah. So 24/7.
No, but like you guys don't like collect your information somewhere and put it somewhere. Like
just relax, bro. Just relax. So 24/7 has always been like the place to actually discern whether or not what people are saying can be tested and verified and or falsified based on empirical means. So we're not going to take some idea, some model, and run with it and say, "Oh man, we must live on a disk." No, that's not how it works here. If something can't be known to be true, it's discarded, right? So therefore, if somebody proposed a disk, Earth, or whatever, we're going to ask them, how do you know that's true? We even grill those who claim to be flat earthers, but base their ideas off of what you just said, right? The idea that the Earth is a disk and a dome and all that stuff. We question them. This place that you came into as to deal with critical thinking, right? Above all else, right? And truth reigns supreme. So we're always seeking that. So anything else is going to be examined. So if you say, or if anybody, not you, but anybody else comes in here and says, well, we live on a disk with a dome and all, we're going to ask them, how do you know that? What's the information that gives us the indication that's true? So they will get grilled. So this place is all about what can be proven, right? That's what we're doing.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like, I want to acknowledge that, like, early in our discussion, like, yes, I may have, like, oversimplified or misrepresented some flat earth views, and that wasn't my intention, okay? Like, I respect the people that hold these sorts of beliefs sincerely, and I'm actually committed to, like, fairly engaging with all of, the perspectives.
Well, I can tell you right now, right, that there's no incentive, there's no goal here to try and propose to you an alternative cosmology, answers to what drives the sun, like the mechanism, all that. It's not that. It's not an alternative cosmological, overall cosmological view, right? The focus is on the geometry of the surface that we live on, right? And other properties like, is it in motion, right? Which it comes from the claims that it is of a specific geometry and it is in motion and it does exist within a medium that they call the vacuum of outer space, right? Oh, did you drop out and you didn't hear any word I said?
Sorry, like my freaking okay. So like I'm on Linux and Linux doesn't support like Discord like at all, so it automatically freezes and I have to go into like the task manager thing and it's really annoying. But like. Yeah,
right, okay. I'll just give you the too long didn't read, right? Flat Earth is not an attempt to replace a cosmological standpoint, right? It's just focusing on the geometry of the surface and examining reality against the claims that we're given. Like Earth is a sphere with a specific size and dimensions, and it's moving, and it's in a vacuum of outer space.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea that the site that I was looking at was actually like just propaganda.
Yeah, that's not your fault, but like we're here to set the record straight, right? So now this room only deals in things that can be proven. This is only thing that we do here. That's why it's the hardest room to be in if you're somebody who's coming in thinking that the Earth is a disk based on a flat Earth that the internet's been propagating. So that's why this place I'm telling you. So therefore, so going back to what you were stating with your premise, premise, and then conclusion, you can't draw from the fact that you could say that it's not what we're saying because you didn't even know our standpoint. It probably still not even yet. So how do you know it's not what we're saying? So you can't rule everything out and then say, well, this has the best explanation, therefore this is the truth.
Well, on that note, right? On that note, can I just post something for him in the side chat? And it's a quote from astronomer George Ellis. Right. Yeah, you have a read of that. And that's from your own side, bro. Okay. He's telling you...
Oh, go ahead.
Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah.
No, I'm reading it. Hang on.
Yeah, but we're doing it for the audience. It's just posterity.
Oh, okay. Sorry, then go ahead.
All right. George Ellis. astronomer, says people need to be aware that there is a range of models, my eyesight's bad, that could explain the observations. For instance, I can construct you a spherically symmetrical universe with Earth at its center, and you cannot disprove it based on observations, which is, and mind you, this is what you're basing, what your logical syllogism is based on, all observations, okay?
Right, yeah.
You can only exclude it on philosophical grounds. In my view, there is absolutely nothing wrong in that. What I want to bring into the open is that we are using philosophical criteria in choosing our models. A lot of cosmology tries to hide that, but in your case, you're just simply ignorant of it.
What I think he means by that, just on reading a few of what George Ellis actually writes, I think what he's talking about there, at least in the context of what he writes, like and this is my guess, but I think like he might be highlighting that while the Big Bang model explains like a lot, there are alternative models or modifications that also attempt to explain observations and stuff like that. Because I believe that was in his paper, like the one about like on the nature of scientific knowledge in like
yes, but the problem is though he is specifically talking about, for instance, Tycho Brahe, who used all observations to formulate an Earth-centered universe, and like he's just making that as an example of like you can formulate these models however you want, because the observations are not going to change, but we can change the assumptions we make about how the sky operates.
That's true.
Right.
That's the reason why you would include the fact on premise 3 for you, Happy. That's why you would say the words that you did to give you the indication that that model that you're adhering to comports over to what you think the observations are, because of what Dre said. You're just making a model that seems to explain things.
When he says models, like in the quote, I think he's just talking about like legitimate, like scientific models.
Right, no, he's talking about an Earth. So he said, for example, I can construct you a spherical symmetrical universe with Earth at its center. That would include, right, Earth in the center, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, all your galaxies going around that.
Yeah, there are like scientific models that have Earth in the center of the universe, but he's not talking about the shape of the Earth.
These are not scientific models.
Yeah.
No.
Regarding
well, what you're describing is because scientific models require experiment. What we're talking about here essentially are mathematical fairy tales about the Earth's position within the celestials.
So he's talking like historically, like we have models where the Earth is at the center of the universe.
Yeah,
they're
mathematical fairy tales. Yeah,
yeah, I agree.
Mathematical, right? So it's just
a model.
No, it's not. It's just a mathematical fairy tale. Okay, well then, what experiment was conducted?
Regarding geocentrism.
Yeah, sure.
So I think actually, let me Google this because I actually don't have it on the top of my head.
Bro, I'm not trying to come down on you, but you just told me that this is a scientific model, and I asked you for an experiment, and now you don't know?
No, regarding geocentrism, we know that it's not we know it's not credible anymore. I guess it still remains a scientific model as as it stands to be.
Yeah, you're using the wrong word, brother. It's not scientific, right? It's a model, but it's not scientific, right? Like this stuff is philosophy that you're talking about. You can't test it. You can't, do experiments on space.
It's math
what the
and
ancients
philosophy.
did a long time ago. Happy. They use philosophical models, and that's all you're doing right now.
we can look at it in different ways. We can look at it like historically, or we can look at it like in a modern context.
No, but the problem is you're not proposing something scientific. Is what you're saying it is. It's not.
But if we're proposing, right, that like a modern geocentric model that like matches like that makes like accurate predictions and like matches observations.
It's not the
like,
model
that
that's
would
making
be
predictions, bro. It's the observations.
Yeah, but I'm saying that model doesn't exist, but I'm saying that would be scientific.
No, but you stated at the very beginning when we started talking that the predictions come from the observations, not from the models. The observations of people sky gazing throughout time.
So we build science based on previous substantiations.
Happy,
so like
me, dude.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
What I'm saying is the predictions are made from the postdictions of people seeing that the sky, the celestials, are on a cyclical nature. That they're repeating cycles. So all that's happening is people witnessing what the celestials are doing, and then saying, okay, I witnessed this event happening at this specific time, or the star will reappear this many days away from here, or whatever the case. But all the observations are giving people ideas to think about, like in your case, thinking about these models, right? What can you propose philosophical? What do you think the cosmos are, the universe, and all things in it? And so you're coming up with, people having ideas about what they would say it is, and you are running with one of them. You like the way it sounds. It's appealing because maybe of consensus. It's a majority. The mainstream narrative that's given it to you, so you're accepting that. But it's not due to the fact that it's anything to do with science, because it doesn't have science involved. There's no experimentation occurring, like says who was pointing out. So we're only telling you that based on what you've been told and you're running with is a philosophical understanding of what the cosmos are. There's no way to prove it, because it's all to deal with people looking up at the sky and seeing the cyclical nature of the celestials and then coming up with some idea of the cosmos. That's all you have. You don't have like an empirical means to verify that specific idea of heliocentrism is exactly what you're abiding by.
Exactly. You don't know that. It's an empiricism.
You don't know that.
Right. So like what I'm talking about here, like when I say something like science is built on observation, I'm including scientific models like in that. So like the way that like science.
The problem here is it's not a scientific model, bro. Like,
okay, wait.
If you call something science and it doesn't follow the scientific method, by definition, what is it?
So in this context, our current model follows the scientific method.
But no, it doesn't, bro.
It does not. So like currently, right now, you're under the impression that you have a scientific model. Is this correct, Happy? Currently, you're under.
Yes,
you're under
the global Earth is a scientific model. That is correct.
Yeah, based on what, heliocentrism? We're in a solar system.
Well, I can prove to you that it follows the scientific method.
But agree that it's a solar system, right? You think planets are revolving around the sun and so forth?
Correct.
Okay.
I think we have to let him. Sorry, I think it's important that he walks this out. So if you think that you can prove this is scientific and there's an experiment that we can conduct, then I'll let you walk through that. So can you give us the dependent variable?
Yeah, so here we go. So how does the scientific model work? First, we ask a question about reality. So the question is the Earth round or flat?
That's wrong.
That's incorrect.
That's wrong. That's not how you start.
Okay, how do you start? How do you think we start?
Asking, if you're incorrect, then wouldn't you find a way to correct what you just? We can give it to you. I think
it starts with an observation or a question. Yes. Like that's what I think.
Stop. Yeah, you said it. So
observation question.
Well, you're gonna observe.
So this is the question: is the Earth round or flat? That's a question.
Dude. You're observing nature, right?
Well, you agree with me? It starts with an observational question.
No,
not a question.
No.
Not a question.
What is the observation being made? Then a question could be asked. But if you're just going to start with asking a question, it's like, what did you have for lunch yesterday? Is that a scientific inquiry? No. So, what did you observe? What is your dependent variable?
I'm going to explain why it can start with a question, though.
No, you can't, because it's not how it... Okay. You can't put the scientific method into a box of what you think it is. It's only just a method of what it actually is. So it's following a procedure. And that procedure
If I'm
is the only way to describe the scientific method. You can't redefine it, Happy.
I'm not redefining the scientific method.
You're trying to.
No, I'm not.
What's going to inspire the question? What will inspire your question?
I want everybody to Google scientific method.
What will inspire you to make a question?
When we don't know something.
About what?
About what?
Reality. The Earth.
Well, okay.
Nature.
So that would have to be something that you looked out into reality and observed, right?
Yeah, you don't do science on pink unicorns because you don't observe any pink unicorns. You get that?
Hang on, I'm getting a link for you guys. This is gonna really help.
It's not gonna help.
We know all about this. You start by observing a natural phenomenon.
You can start with a question as well.
No, incorrect. Incorrect. You don't ask. The question in science is not, does your grandma like cookies? Okay? You don't start with a question. You start with a naturally observed phenomenon. That's step 1. Step 2, formulate a hypothesis. Do you know what a hypothesis is?
Yeah, it's a prediction. Look at the link. Okay, just look at it.
We're not gonna look at your link, dude. We know what it is. We're gonna teach you what it is.
Okay, so you're unwilling to even entertain the idea that I'm right.
You're incorrect right now, and so is the rest of what you're reading from. Is people that are claiming something that is not science. Okay,
well, you can't just make shit up. It has
this
to
isn't
have
making anything up.
Yeah, it is, man.
Okay, dude.
You're incorrect. Happy.
Okay,
just you have to know that. Science, dude, within science, it has to be constructed to form a hypothesis test based on a naturally occurring phenomena that you observe.
Well, if we can't agree that it can start with a question, then I can't prove to you that the science.
No, because you don't.
I can't prove to you using the scientific method.
How many ways are people telling you that it doesn't start with a question? Because the question could be just anything.
Yeah, the question has to follow a criteria,
bro. Just making a question up and then saying, "Well, I wonder why, my pencil breaks, when I bang it across the desk."
The question...
Let's do some science on why you are gay, okay?
Hang on. Can I just explain my position here? Otherwise,
you cannot teach us about what we understand science to be because you don't have a premise to say that your way of thinking of what science is going to give an outcome in a natural cause presupposition of what you're seeing in nature. You have to witness what's happening in nature and then ask a question. Why does this occur? It's a how-why inquiry, dude. The observer or the researcher is asking a question about nature because they see something happening, not because they're just assuming, well, let me start with a question. No, you don't start with a question. You start with the observation of something occurring in nature. Why is that occurring? I see this happening, and I want to ask how and why. That's as easy and as clean as it gets. It's not a redefinition based on what you're saying. Did he leave? He left.
He didn't like the answer.
Yeah, they like to major on the minors and then redefine it. Oh, is the Earth flat or is it a globe? Tuesday, what a dumb way to start off an inquiry. Where would you get the idea from in the first place?
He was already lacing up his track shoes when we started this.
Yep.
I don't think he understood when I told him he can't just make stuff up. I wasn't talking about him making up the scientific method. I was talking about you just can't make a question up like you were saying, right? Like anything could be true.
5 different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything could be true.
Married to scientism,
method, right?
What'd you say, Drace?
He was just too married to scientism. Like he wanted to have the cake and eat it. Wanted anything that supported his position to be called science, and throw real science under the bus. What was wrong with watching an observed phenomenon, a naturally observed phenomenon, and then making a hypothesis and then doing a hypothesis test? That's science.
Yep. Their worldview is built on, information that's just given to them by philosophical means. So it's not science at all. It's masquerading as science because they've been told that it is, but it doesn't adhere to the principles of what science is. It's masquerading as science because they've been told that it is, but it doesn't adhere to the principles of what science is. Good job. Yeah, I wanted to go through it was kind of a lengthy exposition, but it was definitely necessary as we went through all the different ways that he thinks about it. We understood a couple of things. He came in here building a straw man against us. He came in here thinking he knew what science was. He came in here thinking that his way of just assuming that the Earth is based on a model. Like, there's so many things that people with that mindset have that we can expose easily through a good exposition. So it was, yeah. It's sometimes hard because the person can be obtuse, and I've been trying to work at that. Not to immediately start raging on them. So I don't know. It's difficult. I'm not gonna say it's always gonna be that way, but I'm only human, guys.
I totally get you. I'm trying to work on the same thing. You want to be nice to them, man. but when people are acting super dumb and not listening to you, it's difficult to just be like, okay, get your stuff out.
Yeah. Well, it depends who it is, because there's a few characters in here that I wouldn't mind tar and feathering, but not everyone, because Rich could be one of those guys. Maybe. It just depends. But yeah, not everybody. We're all human, dude. But I'm working at it. I was just going over the fact that I want more conversations to be had, more mainstream, more, right? I want us to get out into the open. Like, I think 24/7 has the right recipe to get good content for the masses. Well, what we got going here. So we've been working hard at it, man, curating. And yeah, Helioskeptic says he wanted us to follow his illogical premise. Yeah, he did. Oh, one of the things that, like, if you've been paying attention to what we do here, is we want to stay consistent with logic. So as long as you have logic on your side, you don't have to worry about like anything that they bring up, because if it's not logical, and he wanted to make something that was illogical be able to be proposed logical, and when I was discussing logic with him, and he was giving his premises. I don't know if you guys caught that.
He was doing his best. I mean, I was impressed, but it was hard for him to accept the science thing.
Well, he so wanted to affirm the consequent. I think that's where he was going to go, but you wouldn't even let him get past the if part, right? Like, if he'd understood enough, he could have said, "Hang on a second, though. I'm going to present a modus ponens in which an if-then statement is valid, right?"
Yeah,
but of course, he'd have to know that his premise is true.
Yeah. Right. So it's a true statement. So in other words, if you are making a premise, it would be a true statement. And if you want to keep to logic, it has to be equaling the conclusion would be a summation of the premise. So be okay, it's because of these two true statements, and the conclusion is like it's true.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, truth never fears the fullest of investigation over fences. So if he was willing to dive into it, he wouldn't be like, yeah, let's look into it. But he was a bit standoffish. And most people are when they first come across this. They don't want to expose their mind to something that they didn't know. It's like a cult, dude. I guess you can akin it to a cult.
The thing is, he thought he had the high ground, and so he was like, "Oh, I'll just use logic. I'll go along because I know my belief is correct. I believe in science." But it didn't work so well, and then towards the end, it wasn't working at all.
For those of you who missed it, he did say it was a geometric model. Well, their cosmos follows a geometric model. And we're like, dude, go and show a source where it points to that being a geometric model, the observations. Oh yeah, it is. You guys just don't know what you're talking about. Like, at first he was like standing on that. I was like, I already knew off the rip that he wasn't gonna be able to provide that as evidence. So at looking, he did give us concession on that. He's like, yeah, I misspoke. I'm like, no duh, dude. That's a tough room, dude. You can't come in here who's, if you're esoteric flat earther and be like, well, I think we live on a disc. I'm telling everybody that. So there's that. Pizza disc. Shout out to CB. What's up, homie?
And he clearly read that Flat Earth Society shit, and so he thought he was so secure because we believed all this crazy stuff, so he could just play it cool. But once all those delusions were knocked off, he didn't know where he had us. He didn't know anything. We were just destroying his illogical arguments. It wasn't probably a fun time for him.
Facts. Yeah, that had to be a hell of an experience. I mean, like you said, he probably thought he had the high ground, but dude was getting dragged around. Nope, wrong premise. Do it again. He's like,
you guys aren't the Flat Earth Society? Is that not what you're saying?
That was crazy. He's like, but I just Googled it. It says you're the Flat Earth Society. Yeah. You guys have a model. Oh, really? No, give me a website. What's your website? Oh, it's coming soon. Don't worry. It was a nice try, though.
Yeah, good job from everybody chiming in. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. That was nice that you hit up the chat. You're like, chat, what do you think?
I'm trying to go back and forth, and I think that's important when somebody's a lead speaker or somebody's taking point to actually address the people that are chiming in who can't speak. And you see their points actually being brought up. We have to bring them into the chat because they're part of the team as well. Like Over Fences, I see Clickboard was in there. Helio Skeptic. I'm going to name a few anyway. But yeah.
Over the Fences is making a really good point as well. We need to ask them in the beginning where their knowledge of FE comes from and what they assume about it. It would save a lot of time because a lot of the times they're just lost in the sauce.
You know who does that? CB.
I was going to say CB's good at that.
CB does that.
Wait, what? I missed it. I was making a smoothie. What'd you say? What'd I do?
I said, go ahead, Drace.
Well, he said that you're really bad at approaching newcomers. You're always
womanizing.
That's cat, bro.
Yeah.
That's cat, bro.
Anyway.
No. I said we need to ask them in the beginning where their knowledge of FE comes from and what they assume about it, because Over the Fences said that, and they said that you're really good at that in the beginning.
Oh yeah, I'll be like, so do you understand the globe a lot, a little, or none? And then they'll be like, well, a little. And you say, okay, well, what do you know? It's around. Like, they don't really have much there. And you go, okay, so do you know what flat Earth is? A lot, a little, or none? They're like, a little. Okay, so what is it? So you just make them stand on what they say.
A lot of times they already have something in their mind of what they think flat Earth is, and I think you usually stop them and ask them, what kind of flat Earth do you have in your mind? What is it? Describe it to us.
Yeah, draw it. I like saying, like, just draw it out. And then they'll be like, well, here's a circle. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
well.
That seems to be a lot of the problems as to, like, why they're making a straw man out of, like, our arguments and such, because they have a different flat Earth in their head, and they're trying to come at us with it. Well, wait a minute. Don't you guys all believe the same thing? I mean, aren't you guys all the...
Yeah, he was real serious about that disc. He's like, no, it's definitely a disc. I've seen the model. No, you saw propaganda, bro.
Good stuff, man.
That was good stuff. Yeah, it was good stuff. That last, when he was doing that third premise, he was like just straight Yappuccino. Well, and like, and tilt, and then he just was going on and on and on.
He's trying to say about the model, dude. Talking about models, and like, bro, why did you go from making observations outside to now staring at a model? Like, where the heck? That's not in nature.
Yeah.
I mean, there was many ways we could fillet that premise 3, but
you pointed out something that I thought was important too. He's like, models must explain. Who says who? You make the rules?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I didn't hear that.
He's just taking some guy's philosophical interpretation over some other guy's. That's it. You're like, well, I like the way this sounds. Well, good. That doesn't mean it's true. Just means you like the way it sounds. I mean,
yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly.
Some guy said something somewhere.
And it sounds good to me.
Yeah. And at the beginning of his conversation, he was dropping some buzzwords in here.
Was he?
Yeah, dude. They don't know all these terms. What's redshift and blue shift?
Oh my god.
That's how we know. That's how we know. And then we got galaxies. And what's a galaxy? Well, it's got stars and it's got all these things. And I was like, dude, you've seen this? Yeah, of course. You stare in a night. You see a galaxy with stars.
Don Pettit. You can see the galaxies and the planets.
And the diagonal lights.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that. You hearing the mind actually kind of give you some other dude's interpretation of what they think philosophically the cosmos are. That's all you're getting. And then he's not even doing that well. He's getting all of what the supposed information is. He's like, I was like, dude, these are buzzwords. Like, go through what you think any of this means. Well, let me look.
There's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moon.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, go through all those things of what you think it means, and let me look it up. Yeah, look it up. What are you talking about, bro? Like, didn't you come in here like all big and bad? You thought you were gonna tell us what's what, and now you're gonna look things. That's another pet peeve of mine. Looking stuff up in the middle of having a discussion about the thing you already thought was the truth. You thought this was true, bro.
Yeah, he said it out loud, and you go, okay, well, what does that mean? Oh, hold on a second. Let me research it. We need to come up with a name for that syndrome. I don't have a name for that just yet, where they speak first and Google later. I don't know what to call that, but
it's usually cart before the horse. Yeah, I think it's what.
But that's not catchy enough. Cart before the horse syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't know. We need a good one for that.
A workshop it.
Yeah, we'll workshop that one, dude. We need to get a good word for that.
Well, I was almost going to like chime in at one point and just say, dude, it's okay if you don't know, and like you can just say that, you know. And you were cooking and you were roasting him, so I just like, it's all good because he needs to learn, you know.
Yeah, I almost wanted to dig into his models and be like, okay, present these different models to us, like
yeah.
Like seasonal model, straight parallel rays. Okay, we got Aristophanes. Okay, that works. But wait, for the apparent sun location, the light isn't parallel. It's contradictory now. The models don't work.
Yes, sir. It always depends on who comes in here, but yeah, in hindsight, we could have done things a little differently. I think it went well for the way it did, whichever direction. Or you guys think it's this? No, we don't. What do you mean? Pizza disc? Yeah, their stuff is all messed up, Trace.
Yeah, it's retarded.
All messed up.
It's all
converging, diverging. You got stuff coming at a curve. You got stuff going straight. Like,
are you saying you are not flat Earth society?